ending our last unit of biology. We've made it. This is still in the evolution unit, so we're just going to keep on going. Today we're going to do classification. So what you're going to learn in classification is how we actually classify. How do we have the name Homo sapiens, and how does a panda bear really have a panda bear's name? And how do we know that people are related besides the pedigrees and Punnett squares? So we're going to read about a phylogenetic tree, the cladogram, as well as that economist key. When I tell you all of this right here, it's on the EOC. Please pay attention to this video. So why classify? We have to classify because it's the study of the diversity of life. We had to come up with an area that we can name all of these organisms. So we need it for structure information. We also need it for these types of cells. This is how we built this. We did it for from embryology. So how do we classify? We did it because of the structures of the cells, of the embryology, of the behaviors and relationships, the DNA, and evolutionary relationships. So classification, grouping of organisms based on similarities, period. Okay, we're grouping based off of similarities. So we call this taxonomy, which is a branch of biology that groups the names of organisms. So how do we classify? We classify by taxonomy, and we group it by the names. Taxonomists is biologists who study taxonomists, basically trying to get everybody in the right name. For an example, this was Ardisol and Linnaeus. So Ardisol, he was back in BC. To classify things, he was actually grouping plants and animals. So let's look at Artisols. He was like, oh, plants, animals. We have small plants, medium, large plants, and we have animals who are land, water, and air. Well, that's it. Anybody can go outside and do that. But we got to think about this back in BC. We didn't have a big vocabulary, a big dictionary back in the day. So he subdivided them into like herbs, shrubs, and plants. Then he subdivided the animals into land, air, and water. Problem is that, of course, there's a lot of big plants. I could say that's a tree, but what type of tree is it? So we had to get to a place that the tree itself, we needed to know what type of tree that was, not just that's a big tree or that's just a bush. So this is where Linnaeus comes in. So Carolus Linnaeus, he basically did it off of physical and structural similarities. So physical and structural. He developed the two-word naming system called the bionomian nomenclature. Bionomial, so bi means two, and then name, and then nomenclature, and that's what he named by. So the bionomial nomenclature is given to you from the genus and species. Genus and species, okay? First name is capitalized, second name is lowercase. So this will be, again, genus is first and then species. Together they make up the scientific name of organisms. Underlined if you handwrite it. Italicized if you print it. Then, of course, scientists use Latin names for purposes. So look here, we know that is a polar bear, but a real name for a polar bear anywhere in the world would be called Ursus maritimus. You see how it's italicized because it's typed. First name is capitalized, second name is not. This is polar bear. But how do we get the genus species? So how did we get the name for these species? Well, modern classification. So now this is going to compare the natural relationships of the organisms to their internal and external structures, their chemical makeup of DNA, and their geological distribution. So this is what we call the taxonomic nomenclature. This is the naming system. So domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. You have to know this. The thing is, you may not be tested on a lot of this on the EOC, but you will have to understand what these are. But how can you remember that order? Well, Dashing, King, Philip came over for good soup. Yes, keeping it PG. All right, so he came over for good soup. So that good soup, we have to remember the name of that good soup, okay? But the farther you go down, the more you are alike. The higher we go up, the less we are alike. Because domain, we have only 2 or 3 domains. Kingdom, Animalia. There's a lot of animals. So we got to be more specific. So this is more specific when you get to the species. Each level, though, is called a taxon. So kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So now here, I'm going to push the button and I need you to basically um, copy this chart in your notes. All right, you can pause the video. We have 6 kingdoms, and the thing is, we're not going to break down each kingdom, but you do have to understand the cell type, the body form, the method of obtaining food, complex, and examples. Okay, so the first kingdom we have is Monera, which is going to be the eubacteria. Okay, eubacteria, and then the second one is the archaebacteria. They live in normal. You have 2 types. You have normal and harsh environments. Okay, they are both prokaryotes, a unicellular. They do everything you see. Now next for our next chart. All right, pause the video so you can write this chart down. Now that you unpause the video, this is Protists and this is fungi. So Protists is our junk kingdom. We just throw everything in there that we really don't know what it is. This is eukaryotes. They're unicellular or multicellular. They can be autotrophs or heterotrophs. These are some examples. Okay, fungi has a cell wall of the chitin. Okay, they are eukaryotes. It's unicellular and multicellular. They are heterotrophs only. Okay, no more autotrophs, and these are some more examples. Okay, so now we're coming to our last one. All right, please pause the video so you can write down this slide. Now that you haven't paused your video, we are coming down to, we have the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. Of course, plants have a cell wall of cellulose. Fungi has a cell wall of chitin. So here, the eukaryotic, we know they're multicellular. No more unicellular here. Now, plants obviously can be heterotroph or autotroph, because like a Venus flytrap obviously eats its insects for food. Complex organ system, yes. Here's some examples. Animals, we have invertebrates and vertebrates. Invertebrates means, like for instance, they don't have no spine, basically, no backbone. Vertebrates do. That's us. These are eukaryotes, multicellular. We're only heterotrophs, and of course, we are an example. Now, since that is over with, we are going to the phylogenetic tree. Now, the phylogenetic tree is on the EOC. Okay, this is a study of evolutionary relationships and the history of species. All right, so the method of this is that groups of organisms are together based on their lines of evolutionary descent and their physical characteristics. So as you see here, a fox and a bat is more related than, I don't know what type of bird this is, but let's just say it's a pelican. So this is more related than this is. So the closer you are, as you see here, has common ancestor 1 and 2. Okay, this is the common ancestor of all of them because they all started from the same point. But the closer they are together, they have more similarities. Phylogenetic tree is just a visual model of evolution relationships. So then we have a cladogram. So this is just the updated method. So yes, we use the phylogenetic tree, but the cladogram is what we kind of try to use here. This is again appearing more recent. Remember that one was based off the history. This is based off the more recent, and this is called derived characters. These derived characters construct the cladogram, and this diagram shows the evolutionary relationships among a group of organisms, just like a phylogenetic tree, but remember phylogenetic tree based off the history. Now we're going to do with the recent. So what you would have is a cladogram. You would have a picture like this. Again, the cladograms of phylogenetic tree are basically the same thing, with one's based off history, one's based off the now. You can get a chart like this. As you notice, a lancelet has all zeros. So because he has all zeros, he comes first. Even though the chart is up here, I'm showing you. Okay. Then what comes next? The lamprey has one thing in common. So the lamprey goes next. And why he goes next? But what did he have that was different than the lancelet? He had, I write it right before it, he had a vertebrae. Okay. Now, when you go down, this doesn't have a vertebrae. So that's why that line is after, because he doesn't have a vertebrae. Now, anything that's going to come after this line will have a vertebrae. So everybody here has a vertebrae. So then we go to the tuna. That comes next. So then as you look at the chart, everything on here and everyone, the one who has the most, obviously, will go to the very end. So who is most likely related? The leopard and the turtle. Why? Because they have an amniotic sac. They have 4 walking legs, jaws, vertebrae column. The leopard is most likely not related to a lancelet because a lancelet don't even have a vertebrae. Okay, but they do have one, whoever this was, they do have one common ancestor, but they're most related to the turtle. The turtle is mostly related to the salamander, and the salamander is most related to the tuna to the lamprey, the lamprey to the lancelet, like that. And it goes up this way. So now we have the dichotomous key. Dichotomous key, you have to follow directions. I promise you, this was on the EOC, I think last year, like 2 or 3 times. This was just this type of question. First, they asked about what the dichotomous key is, and then there was 2 graphs of the dichotomous key. So this is very important for you. So you have to follow directions, period. Just follow it. So let us do this chart that you see right here in the notes, okay? I want you to be able to see this. So we always start from number 1, and we always start from A. So it says the beak is relatively long and slender. Slender means slim or skinny. Well, if I look at, there's only one who has a long beak and it's skinny, and that's bird Y. So bird Y name is this. So I can mark off A because we already finished it, okay? But now I have B. It says the beak is relatively stout and heavy. It tells me to do what? Go to 2. As soon as we hear that, we automatically try to be like, oh, that's bird W. No, it didn't tell you. You got to listen to the question and read the question. So it says go to number 2. So number 2A says the bottom surface of the lower beak is flat and straight. So he's got a big beak and it's flat and straight here. And because it's flat and straight, we know that is bird W. Once we finish that, we mark it off. The next one says the beak is relatively stout and heavy. When you go down, it says the bottom surface of the lower beak is curved. It says what? Go to 3. So we got 2 birds who got curved. It says the lower edge of the upper beak has a distinct bend. Okay? It says it has a distinct bend on the lower edge of the upper beak. Well, this one has a straight line, so there is a bend here, so that's obviously bird Z. And then the lower edge of the upper beak is mostly flat. So here's just one. I want you to pause it and see if you can figure out this one. All right, so I'm just writing to see if you know which one is it. And if your answers did not match mine, then you didn't do it right. So try again. Follow directions.